Everyone, my name is Manaroop, and welcome to the Supporting Teaching and Learning in the Blackboard Environment workshop. I'll be running this workshop with my two colleagues, Sean Ross and Daniel Zohab. We're a part of the LMS support team at the Center for Teaching and Learning. So before we get started here, we just want to do a quick little activity just for us to get to know you a little bit better. So there are 3 questions on the screen here. The first one is, what faculty are you aligned to? What is one thing you want to learn today about Blackboard as a GA/TA? And the last one is just a yes or no question. I have taken an online course before, or I am confident in using Blackboard as a student. So could you all please click the little T at the top and just put in, yep, just like that. Just put in your answers here, and I'll give you a couple minutes for that. I'm seeing a lot of computer science. And yeah, for that last one, I know you guys are GA, so you guys probably all are students as well. So most of that will be yes. Inputting grades, grading and feedback. Okay, we'll give you about a minute here, and then we'll move on. Okay, so hopefully you all had a chance to answer those questions. I'm seeing a lot of grades, so hopefully, or we will be looking at that later on today. So by the end of this workshop, you will be able to create an announcement using the content editor, use the email feature within Blackboard to contact students, post, manage, and grade discussion forums and threads, access and grade an assignment using inline grading features, grade tests using grade by question and grade by attempt, locate and update student grades in the Grade Center. So the first major topic we're going to be talking about today is communicating with students. So as from the previous slide or 2 slides ago, I've seen that you guys have all been students in a course. So you guys all know how important it is for a professor to constantly communicate with their students, whether that's through announcements or emails or anything like that. So the first topic we're going to talk about is the content editor. Now the content editor is something you'll see all throughout your Blackboard course site. Basically, anywhere a block of text may be created, you'll most likely be using the content editor. And some of the things you can do with the content editor is add and format text, insert links and hyperlinks, attach files and media, and also embed media. And this here on the left is what the content editor looks like. So in Blackboard, there are actually 2 main ways of communicating with your students. There's announcements and there's emails. So first we'll go over the announcements. The announcements is basically a dedicated space within your course. So in your sandboxes and your course sites, you'll always have a dedicated space in your course for announcements. It's available to all course users, and the cool feature of announcements is that you can also send it as an email. So some examples of where you would use announcements is due dates for assignments and projects, changes to your syllabus, corrections and clarifications of materials, and exam or midterm schedules. So you'll have like a panel like this on your left, and this is where you would click into to get into your announcements. The second way to communicate with your students is through email. Now, email is an integrated tool that allows you to compose and send emails to course users without actually leaving Blackboard. And you also have a couple of options to who you want to send your email out to. So you can send it out to all users, all groups, student users, and things like that. Once I demo in a few slides, I'll go more in depth into this so you guys can get a better understanding. One thing to note with email is that it does not remain accessible within the Blackboard interface. So what that means is, yes, you can send your email through Blackboard, but once you get a response, that will actually be going to your Outlook. So you'd have to sign into your Outlook, and that's where you can see your responses. And another thing is the copy of the email is sent to the sender. So once you send it out, you will also get a copy of the email. So now it's time to play a little game. I'm going to give you guys a scenario and I want you guys to tell me if it's an email or an announcement. So should you send an email for this or an announcement? I am going to set up a poll for this, so give me 1 second. Just getting it set up here. Okay, so you guys should be able to see that. So the first question is, you are going to be having a joint class with another section for a guest speaker today using Teams. So what do you guys think? Should that be an email or an announcement? I'll give you about 20 more seconds here. Okay, looks like mostly everyone responded. So I'll show the responses. So the correct answer is announcement. Good job. Mostly everyone got that. So now question 2. Okay, so question 2. One of the groups has yet to submit their proposal for an upcoming assignment. So what do you think that should be? I'll give you about 15 more seconds here. Okay, so the correct answer was email. Most of you got that as well, so good job. Question 3. Question 3 is, due to a change in your schedule, your office hours are moved for the week. So what do you think for that? I'll give you about 10 more seconds here. Okay, great job. So question 3 is an announcement. So you guys got that. Question 4. So question 4, you are requesting to have a meeting with a student for remedial support around course concepts. What do you think that will be? I'll give you about 10 more seconds for this one. Okay, great job. And the last one here. You want to share some observations about student engagement during labs with the instructor and other GA/TAs. So what do you guys think that is? We'll give it 10 more seconds. So the correct response for that last one is actually email. So most of you got that as well. So good job. So I'll end this poll and we'll move on. So now I will actually demo everything that we just talked about. I'll go over the content editor, how to create an announcement, how to send out an email. Don't worry, I will give you some time after this slide so you guys can practice in your own sandbox. So for now, just watch me do it and then you guys will have some time after. So let me just share my screen here. Okay, so you guys should all be able to see my screen here. If you can't, just put it in the chat. I think you guys should be able to though. So once you're in your Blackboard course, you want to head over to your sandbox. So before we start creating announcements, I want to go over these three buttons here at the top right. The first one is your edit student preview. This is basically whenever you make announcements or assignments and you want to see what you made from a student perspective, you can click on this student preview and take a look at it and look at it how a student would see it. The next one is the make available. So for example, right now how this is locked, that means no student would be able to come into your course, so you'd have to unlock it. So once you unlock it, the students would be able to see it and come in. And the last one is the edit mode. So whenever you're making edits and things like that, you have to make sure that your edit mode is on. So now into creating an announcement, sorry. So to create an announcement, you want to go over to your announcements tab. So your announcements tab is right here on the left. We're already in it, but if you're not, you would just click announcements and then click on create announcement. Once you click on create announcement, you want to add your subject. So for me, I'm just going to put assignment 1. And this is the content editor that we were talking about earlier. So this is where you can change the way it looks, change the font, change the size, add bullets, anything you want. One thing to keep in mind, if this isn't expanded here, if you're looking for the rest of the options, you just click on these 3 dots here and the rest of them will come up. So here's where you can start making your announcement. Thanks. So right now I'm just making an announcement for assignment 1 and that it's in the resource section. So here is where you can actually set the duration of it. So you can make it not date restricted or date restricted. If you make it date restricted, you can do a display after or display until. So for example, if I wanted this to come out tomorrow, you would click on this and set it on to the 3rd. And then you can change your date. So let's say at 12:30, you can change it, and then you can also do a display until. For our example, I'm just going to do not date restricted. You could also send out an email announcement. So if you want to send a copy of this announcement immediately, you can do that as well. And lastly, this course link, this is something that isn't used that often, but it is a cool feature. So for example, how we said it's in the resources section. So obviously the student will see this and then go to the resources section, but you can also just link it in the email, which is a cool feature. So you can just click browse, resources, and then just click submit once you're happy with your announcement. And here it is. So you can just click on this and it would bring you right to that. So there's my assignment one. So that's pretty much it for the announcements. So now let's head over to the emails. So here is the email. So this is the different types of options that you have when you're sending an email. You can send it to all users, all groups, all student users, lead TAs, instructors, observers, and you can also do single select. So if you want to do just one user or one group. So for example, I just want to send it to one person in my class. So I would click single user, single select user, and let's say I want to send it to main root meter. I would click on his name and just throw him into this column. One thing to make sure is that make sure you put them into this column and not just click on their name, because if you just click on their name, that's not really doing anything. You would have to make sure they're in this column. So for us right now, I'm just going to send it to all users. And then here, just like the announcement earlier, you can add your subject. So I'm just going to do the same thing. Sign on, posted. And once again, this is the content editor that we were talking about earlier. This will show up basically anywhere in your course where you're writing text. And here's where you can add attachments. So you can attach a file. So let's say you wanted to attach the assignment right to the email, you can do that as well. And then once you're done with that, you would just click on submit and your email will be sent. So that's it for the demo. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and give you guys a chance to try this all on your own. So let me share my files. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so we'll give you about 7 minutes to try it on your own. And if you have any questions, please post it in the chat and we'll be happy to help you. So we'll give you about 7 minutes. And sorry, one thing I forgot to mention is you should have exercise sheets. They should have been sent to you before this. So those will help you if you need any help. The steps are on there as well. So, and also once again, just if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. So we'll give you a couple more minutes here, and everyone should have sandboxes now, so that issue should be resolved. So please take a look at that and see if you have it now.
All right, so how's everyone doing now? Do we need more time or is everyone good to move on? You can just put it in the chat if you're done with the activities. All right, just for the sake of time, so we will continue moving on. So Blackboard offers a wide variety of assessments that you can provide to your students. Some of them that we have are discussion boards, assignments, and tests. So these are the ones that we will be focusing the most on in this workshop. And then we also have some other available, such as wikis, vlogs, and journals. So in terms of setting these up, it's a quite simple process. If you're trying to release it into one of your content areas, you can simply click on the assessments or the tools button within the content area, and you can select these assessments there from the drop-down menus. So we will be going one by one based on all the assessments that we talked about. So first I'll be starting with the discussion board tool. So discussion forums is a great way for you to build a sense of community, especially in the classes that are mostly online or done asynchronously. So you can make sure that the students can interact with each other. And you also have the option to make it gradable as a part of your course assessment, which allows the student to engage with each other, and it is a great way to promote engagement among them. In terms of best practices, one of the cool features that we have for the discussion forums is that you can subscribe for alerts. So usually if a student posts something in a forum and they might forget about it and they won't be able to see any of the responses or replies to their post until they join the forum back manually. So one thing that they can do is they can subscribe for alerts. So whenever someone posts something in a forum or replies to them, they will get an alert, which will be an email directly in their inbox. So it is a great reminder for the students to engage with their responses and for you as well to make sure that the class is having an active discussion. In terms of using the discussion forums, one of the great ways you can use it is as a Q&A forum. So usually if one student has a question, there's a chance there will be more students with similar kind of questions as well. So instead of answering them one by one, you can set up a Q&A forum and answer them there publicly. So whenever someone wants to ask you something, they can refer to that forum and make sure that if they have the answers there before they reach you out. So it is a powerful tool for questions about the coursework and assignments, and make sure that students are aware of everything going on as they're going through the course. Now, in terms of creating discussion forums and threads, so on the right, you can see this is how the general hierarchy of this discussion board course tool looks like. So first, you can have multiple forums running in the class, which can be about different topics. So this is something that you will be setting up. And then under each forum, you will have several threads. So threads are basically the student post, their replies, and whatever they're making in the discussion to run it. On the left, you can see we have multiple screenshots of the different kind of settings. So these are the settings that you go through once you're setting up these forums. So in a few minutes, I'll be doing a quick demo and we will go in detail of how these settings work like. But just to quickly skim through it, some of the options you have available are you can make a time window and you can restrict the forum in a time window. And out of that window, no one will have access to it. You can also change up the views. You can also make it gradable. And then you have different kind of settings that you can allow your students to do or take away from them, such as deleting their own post or editing their own post. Now, once you have set it up a forum, the student responses are in and you want to grade them. So now the first thing that is really important is that by default, the discussion board tool is not gradable. So once you're setting it up, you have to turn on the grading option. And I will show you in the demo that how that works like. Now that once all the student responses are in and you want to grade them, this is how the grading window looks like. So first, you will have a student name right here. Here you can grade them using a rubric. You can also provide them with a private feedback, which will be between you and the student. And you can also reply to them publicly here. So anyone who has access to the thread or the forum, they will be able to see your public replies. So you want to make sure it's more of a formatted reply as it will be public to everyone. All right, so now I'll be doing a quick demo in which I will show you how you can create a discussion forum, how you can post in it, how you can subscribe, and then grade them. So let me just quickly share my screen. All right, hopefully you can see my screen now. So this is my course homepage. So first of all, I can see that on the course menu here, I have the discussion board tool. So for example, if you don't have it on your course site, so you will have to create it. So you will simply go onto that plus icon on top left. You will click on tool link. From the drop-down menu, you will select discussion board. And here you can assign a name to it, whatever you want. For example, just discussion board simply. You will make it available to the user, so anyone who has access to the class, they will be able to see it, and you can click on submit. So I already have it. I won't be creating it right now, but in case you don't have it, so that's how you do that. So I will click on the discussion board tool. So this is how the main page looks like. You can see you can have multiple forums running in the class, which can be about different topics. You can see the description of the forum. You can see how many posts are in there and how many people are participating in there. So once you click on the forum's name, the next thing that you see is the student responses. So these are threads, which is students making posts and participating in your forum. So one option that we had was subscribing for alerts, which I talked about earlier. So to do that, you will simply click on subscribe here. So there's a button for that right here. So you will click subscribe, and whenever someone posts something in here, you will get an alert in your email that, all right, you can come in here and reply to a post or look at what someone posted. So now I'll be showing how you can create a discussion forum. So let me just quickly go back to the main screen of the discussion board tool. On the top left, you can see it says create forum. So you will click on that button right here. All right, here, so these are the bunch of settings that you go through once you are setting them up. So here you can also click on more help, and it will explain you any kind of options that you need help with here. So first you can assign a name for your forum, for example, a Q&A forum. You can type in a description for it here. For example, students can ask their questions here. Or you can also write in a question that will be the starting question for your discussion right here. The next option that we have is forum availability. So you can make it available to the students right away by clicking on yes, or not by clicking on no. You can also restrict it by date or time by using the display after and display until. And once you do that, you still got to make sure that this is set to yes, so that it's going to respect the date and time that you have created here. The next option that we have is the views. So one of the options we have is the participants must create a thread in order to view the other people's work. So some professors like using it once they're making the discussion forum gradable, so that no one sees each other's work or copies each other's work. Or the default option is standard view, in which you can see each other's work and it's more of an open discussion. Now this is a really important option. So by default, as you can see, it is not set up for grading. But if you want to make your discussion forum gradable, you have to click on this option, grade discussion forum. And then you can set up points possible, so which is the number of points you want to grade them out of. So for example, 5. Here you can also add a rubric and then grade them using a rubric later on. These are few options for the subscribing for alerts. So you can turn it off, you can allow them to subscribe to certain threads or the forum in general. So here it's more of a personal choice how you want to customize your forum. So you can allow the students to delete their own post, edit their own post, create new threads, make file attachments, and make replies and whatnot. So it's more of a personal choice how you want to customize your forum for the students. So once you feel like everything looks good, it's gradable, everything is how you want it to be, you can simply click on submit. And once you click on submit, you can see that the forum is created and the students will have access to it now. So now just looking at it from the student's point of view, I'll show you how you can post in a forum. So I will enter the student's preview, which is the student's perspective. I will open the discussion board tool that is available to me in the class. And then I can see there are multiple forums running in my class. And the one I want to participate in is Q&A forum. So I will click on the forum's name. And here the student will click on create thread, so which is the student post. Here they can make a post that they want and want to participate in the discussion. So for example, if they have any question, they can ask in here. So just because you turned on that option, they can also attach a file if they want. And once the student feels like everything is good, they can click on submit. And a thread will be created, which is actually the student's work posted in the forum. So now I want to go back to this instructor's point of view, and I want to show you how you can grade them once all the student responses are in. So I'll just exit the preview here. And now I'm in the instructor's point of view. So I will go into the discussion board tool. I can see that someone made a post here, and I will simply click on the forum's name. So now, for example, all the student responses are in, and now I want to grade them. So I will click on grade discussion forum button right here. Once I do that here, I will see a list of all the students that made the responses, and I can simply click on the grade button for any of the students there. So this is the grading window that opens up that we also talked about in the slides. So here you will see the student name that you're creating. So if you had more students, there will be arrow buttons right here, and you can simply skip through them and go one by one. So here you can assign them with a grade. So you can also provide them with a private feedback here, which will be just between you and the student. If you turned on the rubric option, you could have also graded them using a rubric right here. You can add some personal notes for yourself, and you can also reply to them publicly by simply clicking on reply button right here. And once you feel like everything is good for the student, you will simply click on submit. And once you do that, it gives you a verification that the grade was saved successfully. So as I said, if you have more students, you will keep clicking on the arrow right here, and you can just grade them one by one using the same process that I explained to you right now. And I can just click on OK, and the student is graded. So I will see a list of student grades right here. Now just quickly going back to the student's point of view and showing you that how it will look at from their side. So let me enter the student preview again. So as a student, they will see all their grades under my grades. So they will just click on there, and they can see that they posted something in the Q&A forum. They got a grade for that here, and they also got a private feedback. For example, great work. So yeah, this is how the process of creating a forum, posting in it, and then grading it works like. And now I'll be switching back to the slides. Let me just quickly bring up the slides here. All right, so now it's your turn to do these activities 2A and 2B on your Excel sheet. So here you'll be creating and posting in the discussion boards, and then you will be grading it. So I'll give you about 8 minutes, and then we will continue from there. And feel free to ask if you have any questions in the chat. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Sean. We're going to be moving on to the next section now. Please let us know if anything went wrong with these exercises that you were just doing, and otherwise we're going to be moving on. Okay, so our next topic here is assignments. So assignments in Blackboard are like a Dropbox for students to submit files for grading. There are a few different types of assignments. There are individual assignments, there are group assignments, and there are portfolio assignments, which are essentially a culmination of many different works that a student submits. For each assignment, a student can have one singular attempt, multiple attempts, or an unlimited number of attempts to submit that assignment. And Blackboard also has a built-in feature that you can choose to enable called Safe Assign, which is meant to be a plagiarism checker, and we'll discuss that in more detail when we get to that slide. And first of several warnings, not to use the delegated grading feature or anonymous grading feature. And we'll go over that more later. In your Grade Center, you will have two options for views. In Grade Center, you'll be able to look at needs grading, and then you'll be able to look at the full Grade Center. So needs grading will only show you ones for which you haven't submitted a grade. And the full Grade Center will show you every column in the Grade Center with all student submissions and their grades if they're available. This is what the screen looks like for you when you're grading an assignment. This assignment here is a PDF submission, and it appears to be a Word document that the student has submitted. So you'll be able to see a preview of the assignment in that left window there. And on the right, you see that there's a space for you to input a grade. And I'll just use my pointer here. This is where you would put in the grade. And this, if you expand that, is where you would type in feedback to the student if you want to do that. Now, this assignment has a preview here on the left, but we could also download the original file if we needed to put that on our computer for some reason. Also want to point out here is where the Safe Assign report is. And we see that this is a 70% overall match, meaning that 70% of this, of the content of this document matched what's in the Safe Assign database of records. That doesn't necessarily mean that this was plagiarized. It's just information. It gives you a report, and you can investigate that yourself and see what you come up with, whether or not it's plagiarism. Oftentimes, reference pages will come up as similar, as well as large quotations. So it's not a definitive answer of plagiarism, it gives you information. And now I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. I'm going to be creating an assignment and then looking at the grading view for it. And then I'll actually be going into the student preview mode and submitting an assignment. And I'll go back to being an instructor, and I will create a grade for that assignment. So on the main page of my Sandbox course here, if we go to assignments, and this can be categorized and organized any way you want. I happen to have this assignment in a toolbar called assignments. And we're going to be creating an assignment. So this is the page that I have chosen for the assignments to go on. And to create a new assignment, you hover over assessments here. And this is where you would make a test, a survey, an assignment. So we're going to be making an assignment. And then we have our options for our assignment here. So I'll give it a name. We'll call it Gamma Sample Assignment. And I'll give it instructions. So these are the instructions that will show up to the student. So maybe I want them to submit a photo. And that's the instruction to the student. You can also add in content like, and if there are any files that the student needs to complete the assignment, then you can attach files to give the student here. You can set a due date for the assignment. So let's do it a week from today. And when we're setting the time, bear in mind that midnight is the beginning of the day. So if we want it to be due at the very end of the day at 11:59 p.m., we can select end of day there. Points possible, I'll put 10 just for example here. And if we had a rubric, or if we wanted to create a new rubric, this is the button that we would click to work with that. Now these three boxes here expand. So for submission details, this is where we can select options like individual, group, or portfolio submission. And number of attempts, here's where we have single, multiple, and unlimited. If it's a single attempt, that means the student will be able to submit only once. And if something goes wrong with that submission, we usually find that it's easier for you and for instructors if you give at least 2 attempts. Because if the student forgets to attach a file the first time, they don't have a chance to fix that themselves, and then they'll need to reach out to you to clear that attempt for them. So if we give them 2 attempts, that leaves some wiggle room for a resubmission. And if you have more than 1 attempt, you can select a score using an average of all the attempts, or the highest or the lowest, or the first or the last. So by default, we'll have that as the last attempt that they submit. We can also check off here to check submissions for plagiarism using SafeAssign. So if we were choosing to use SafeAssign, we would check that box. And if we check that box, we can also check the option to allow students to view the originality report that SafeAssign generates. Here's the grading options box. And if you expand this, you'll notice the big, bold, all caps, University of Windsor does not recommend using this feature. So we won't be checking off anonymous or delegated grading. And in display of grades, this is how the grades will display in Grade Center. So we can choose it as the raw score or as the percentage, for example. And we want to include this in grading calculations and also show this to the students. We can also set availability dates. It'll default to right now, and we can display it until, let's say, 2 weeks from today. The difference between the availability date, end date, and the due date is that after the due date, students can still submit the assignment. It will just be flagged as late. After the availability end date passes, the student won't be able to access the assignment anymore. So there's the difference there. And tracking number of views is up to you. It just lets you see what students have viewed this content. And you can do that for multiple different types of content across Blackboard. Once you're happy with your settings, you can click Submit. And now the assignment has been created, and it will be in the content area in which you chose to create a new assessment. So here's the GATA sample assignment. I'm going to switch now to Student Preview by clicking this button here at the top. And this is how a student will see this course. So if a student wants to complete that assignment, they will navigate over to Assignments and GATA Sample Assignment. So they'll see the due date. They will see how many points they can get for it. They'll see the instructions that you laid out for them, and also a disclaimer here that it will be tracked for SafeAssign for plagiarism if you have that option checked off. They can write a text submission, or they can attach a file. I'm going to attach a file. I'm going to attach a photo, like the instructions for the assignment said. And then they can add a comment if they would like to. So, for example, when the student's happy with that, they will click Submit. and that has gone through. So they will receive a confirmation email for that. They can click OK and exit that. So we're going to exit the student preview now. Now, when you exit your student preview, you'll see the option here to choose between deleting the preview user and all data, which we don't want to do right now. We're going to keep the preview user and all data because we want to actually be able to grade that assignment and then look at it in Grade Center. So we're going to continue, and now we'll be back in instructor view. So if we scroll down to the Grade Center, and we'll look at the full Grade Center here. This is everything. This is our student, that preview user. And we're going to scroll over all the way to the end. Here's the GATA sample assignment. Anything that that student has done that we haven't graded yet will show up as this yellow circle with a white exclamation mark in it. And if we hover over the chevron and click that, we'll be able to go into the attempt and see what this student has submitted. So there's the photo that the student submitted. Safe Assign won't generate a report for a photo, but if it were a Word document or something with text in it, it would be able to. We can give the student a grade. I'm going to give this student 9 out of 10. And you can usually give them feedback. And then here you would probably tell them why they got a 9 out of 10. So something you would put there. If you were using a rubric, you would also be able to use that feature here. Once you're happy with that, you can click Submit. If you have multiple students to grade, that will bring you to the next student. But since we only have the one, that was that. Now in the full Grade Center, that shows up as their grade. Quickly switching back to the student here. Once you've graded that, and once the grades have been released, the student can go to My Grades and see on the GATA sample assignment, they can see a 9 out of 10. And if they click this, they can see even feedback. Exiting the preview, once again, keeping that user and all their data. We'll be using them again later. And now I'm going to turn it over to you guys. It's your turn now. So this will be activity 3A in your sheet, grading and providing feedback on an assignment. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes to complete this, and then we'll be moving on to something else. Please let us know in the chat if you have any questions. And of course, if you don't have the sample assignment, if you were given a generic sandbox here, then try doing what I did and create your own little assignment. Give it a name, give it a point that it's out of, and then you'll be able to follow along with the activity. Okay, is anybody needing any more time here with this one? Okay. Okay, we're going to move on now to tests. So tests on Blackboard are composed of questions, and there are 17 different types of questions that you can put on a test. Actually, very many options for very specific use cases. Not all of them are mobile friendly, so bear in mind that only the more basic ones will be available on a mobile device. So those are the true and false, either or, multiple choice, short answer, and long answer or essay questions. And then, of course, there is feedback on tests, and you, creating the test, are able to determine feedback parameters. So they can either get their feedback immediately after the test, which would be possible with true and false or multiple choice questions, or after all attempts are graded. You might want to do that so nobody's getting their grade before other students are done, and that's up to you during creation of the test. And this is what grading tests looks like. So you can have a few options in Grade Center for this. You can either grade by question or you can grade by test. So grading by question would be like grading all of the question ones for all of the students and then doing all of the question twos. And that would be useful if you had some sort of prompt for that and you want to be consistent going through there and grading those all after another. Or you can grade by the entire test. So doing an entire student's test, grading that, and then moving on to the next student. You are able to give feedback for individual questions, and you are also able to give overall feedback at the end for the test. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to be creating a very short test, grading the submission and providing feedback. So back to our sandbox course here. Just for the sake of time here, I'm not going to create a new content area. I'm going to do this in the assignments area, but you could create a new area specifically for tests, as long as students know where to expect it. Hover over assessments and click test. And this will let you add a new test. So we're going to create a new test. I'm going to give this test a name, so data sample test. Description for the test, whatever you need. Instructions, any special instructions that you need to give your students. And again, like anywhere else on Blackboard, you can add additional content here. We're going to submit. The test exists, but it doesn't have any questions yet. We can create questions here. Here are these 17 different types of questions, and there are even calculated formulas. There are jumbled sentence questions. There are lots of options here that may not be as widely used. We're going to do a multiple choice here. So multiple choice. Question title. We'll just give this a question title. This is just for us, so I'll just call it Q1. And then the actual question text. So what is the color of the sky? And then we can add in our options there. You have options for answer numbering and for answer orientation, whether you want those vertical or horizontal. You can show answers in random order, which is often useful. And number of answers here, so I'm only going to do 4. You can have many, many options here. So answer 1, we're going to do red. Answer 2, blue. Answer 3, green. Answer 4, orange. Okay. We scroll back up. We can see this button here for the correct answer. So I'm going to mark answer 2 as the correct answer. Okay, and we can submit. We don't need any other options for that one, although we do have other options that we could add. And this is what our answer key looks like so far. I'd like to add one more question, a short answer question. Question title is going to be Q2. Name of today's event. The answer that we're looking for is, okay. We're going to submit that with the options. So here's our answer key now. What is the color of the sky? And what is the name of today's event? Those questions could be worded better. They could be less ambiguous. Just for the purposes of the demo, we're going to add that and submit. Okay. And now we'll have options for the test. We want it available to students. We could make a new announcement for the test to tell students that it's available. We can allow multiple attempts. You can force completion, so it must be completed in one sitting. You can have a timer for the test. We're going to give students 10 minutes to do this one. Display after display until, we won't work with that. You can have a password to access the test. All that. We can have a due date, self-assessment options, including it in Grade Center. When do we show the results to the student? After submission, we'll make them immediate. After all attempts are graded would be after you've done all of the grading for all students. We're going to do that one. Test presentation, you can give it all at once or one at a time. And then we can click submit for that. So there we have our data sample test. I'm going to run into the student preview now. Go to assignments, find our data sample test. We can see our time limit. We can see all the settings that are pertinent to the student, and we can click begin. Okay, what's the color of the sky? Well, maybe this student thinks the sky is orange. And what's the name of today's event? We're going to say Data Academy. Okay. Save and submit. It'll confirm with the student. And we won't have our results yet. We're going to exit the preview, and we're going to keep that preview user and all data. Okay. So now we're going to go to our Grade Center and grade that test. Should be to our last column there, data sample test. We see that submission. We're going to go into the attempt. Our multiple choice will be graded automatically. If necessary, we could override that grade, but the answer is not correct. For the short answer, we need to grade that manually. And this could especially be the case if it's an essay question where it's subjective, or if what if I use lowercase here, that sort of thing. You can have multiple answers for a short answer question, but I'm going to put in that grade. They got 10 out of 10 for that question. I'm clicking submit. And if we look back at the Grade Center now, we should see that the student got 10 points on that test. The test was out of 20 points. If we were to go back to our user, they would see that they got 10 out of 20 or 50% on that test. Handing it back over to you now. Exercise 4 in your handbook, grading and providing feedback to a test. Again, if you don't have a test in your sandbox, really quickly create a sample test just with 1 or 2 questions like I did so that you can grade it and then provide feedback for that. Let us know if you have any questions. Okay, just in the interest of time, I'm going to keep going. So we're going to be moving on to the grade center. So we've used the grade center for the last couple sections here for the assignments and tests, but this is where all the grades will be in the full grade center. So each column is going to be a different assessment, like an assignment or test or midterm or exam, and then each row is going to be for a different student, and all of their attempts will populate as they complete them. In the grade center, you'll be able to create new columns manually if you need to, like a calculated column for a weighted total, for example. But whenever you create an assignment or a test in Blackboard, a column is automatically created for that assessment in the grade center, so you don't need to manually do those for each assignment. Any assessment that needs grading is going to show up as that yellow circle with the white exclamation mark. If you click the chevron next to it, you'll be able to actually view grade details, and you'll be able to see the feedback given, see their multiple attempts, if that was an option that you had checked off, the grading history for those, and you'll be able to clear or ignore attempts, again, if there are multiples of them. And now I'll be sharing my screen. Once more back into the sandbox, we see our full grade center, which can be accessed on the left bar here, expanding grade center and clicking on full grade center. We arrive here, we see our columns. So I'm going to create a calculated column by hovering over this. And let's say we want an average column, for the average for the student. We're going to call this average. And we're going to keep the grade center name the same. That's just what it will be, the header in grade center. We could do a short form to save space there. I won't give it a description. I'll leave it as a percentage. And it's going to be a running total, and it's going to include all columns in the average. We could choose some to exclude there. And we will show it to students. We'll click submit when we're happy with the settings, and we should see this in there. So this gives us an average for that student's grade. Also, if we go into something like the assignment here, and we click the chevron and look at view grade details, we'll be able to see what they got, what it was out of, how it was graded based on the last graded attempt, and we'll be able to see all of the attempts here. We could manually override any of this feedback, look at details of the column in grade center in general, and look at grade history for this student. And now I'll be putting it back to the slideshow here, and I'll be passing this back off to Manroop, who's going to close up the session for us.
Thank you, Sean and Daniel, for all of that. That was great. So that just about brings us to the end of our workshop today. One thing we want to emphasize before we let you go here is once things are deleted in Blackboard, they usually can't be retrieved. So if you're ever in doubt, please ask for help. Don't hesitate. There's a lot of places where you can get help. You can create a ticket on our TDX website. We also have a great virtual help desk, which is open on weekdays from 8:30 to 4:30. The U Windsor Blackboard Wiki has great resources as well. There's also a lot of self-paced Blackboard courses and workshops that you can do, and also the Blackboard site itself. And these links will all be sent to you after the workshop, so don't worry about that. So that brings us to the end. So we'll just open the floor up now for any questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. And thank you for those that need to leave right now. Thank you for attending this workshop.
Thank you all. Thank you for our presenters today. I just wanted to quickly mention that I've added the feedback form in the chat there. If you have a moment to fill that out for today's presenters, they greatly appreciate that. And this also concludes our week of workshops for GAT Academy. So thank you to all who have attended multiple sessions. We hope that you've gained a lot of insights from all the sessions and especially this one.